What happened?
I'm going to record it.
There we go.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I found I missed stuff because I was excited and they were excited, and sometimes we got off track, and then they get in their car and they drive off, and I get ready to present the offer, and I'm like, dang, I didn't ask that question. I don't know what they wanted to do with that. And I feel like a doofus because I had to pick up the phone and call them back and go, I forgot to ask you if you wanted a home warranty. So what I came up with was a cheat sheet. So, and it just covers most of the boxes from the contract. And so I picked out a house for us to write an offer on. And so it's 2304 South Florence. And so you will have already done this, and they've already seen the house, and they've already seen all the information here. You've already printed out the tax records. You've maybe even, and probably even, gone through disclosures and stuff with them already. And so, so I really just start with that cheat sheet. First question is address. I've already got that filled out. And so the next question I'm asking is, what names do you want to be on the contract? Some people go by Bob, but their real name's Robert, and they want their legal name to be on there. And so, so in this case, it's Bob and Susie Byer, a married couple. And a lot of times it does help to put a married couple, if they are a married couple, on there so that the title company knows that it's not Bob and Mary Smith that just happen to live together and have the last name Smith. Because as they prepare that paperwork, it's very different. And so, and sometimes it depends on the lender. Sometimes the lender will want one person to be on the contract, not the other. Sometimes they'll require that both people be on the contract. So I always ask the question, what name do you want to be on the title to the house? Because that's the way we need to write it on the contract. And so I'll go ahead and fill it in, Bob and Mary Smith, a married couple. So the next line is what type of lending they're using. And so I've got a checkbox for FHA, conventional, USDA, cash, and then who's their lender. And so if they're using an FHA loan, and it should have VA on there as well, but I'm just going to check that box, FHA, who's their lender, that is prime lending. So, because I need that information. So then we sit and have a conversation, guys, what do you want to offer for this house? You know, we looked at the numbers, where do you feel comfortable? House is listed at 200, it's been on the market for 23 days. What do you want to offer? Well, I was saying let's offer 195. Okay, I think that's a good plan. So I go ahead and put my checkbox, 195. So earnest money. So remember, earnest money is that money that you, go ahead, 1%, right? So it's a negotiable amount. That's true. And so, right. And so standard is typically about 1%. And so I'll be honest with you, in my experience, most buyers either put $500 or $1,000. So if it's a lower end property, they'll put 500. If it's a higher end property, they'll put 1,000. If it's a real high end property, they'll put more.
Can earnest and the amount of earnest money dictate whether a seller will take your offer, like a multiple offer?
It could. Yeah, it could play a factor. Yeah. So if you've got a $200,000 property and you've only put down $500 in earnest money, and somebody else put down $2,000 in earnest money, what does that mentally say to a seller? It says, this guy's got some cash in the bank. This guy's broke as a joke. He ain't got no money because he's only putting down $500. This guy's scary. So the one with $500. And so that may or may not be true. It's just an arbitrary number that you pulled out of your hat to throw down. But you're right, in a multiple offer situation, you want to come in with everything being as strong as possible. Because the reality is the way the contract laws are written in Oklahoma, they're really designed to protect the buyer and their earnest money. And so there's so many loopholes and outs, and we'll talk about that as we go through the contract. But it's almost impossible for them to lose their earnest money unless they just straight up breach the contract. Right? So, and so we have that conversation about earnest money. Where do you feel comfortable? No, let's put down $1,000. Okay, $1,000. So closing date. Have you guys thought about when you'd like to close? When are you out of your apartment? When when are you closing on the sale of your house? Are you headed out of the country on a vacation? Do we need to close before that? Do we need to close after that? What works in that timeline? Lenders told us that it's going to take 30 to 45 days. If you got your ducks in a row, they said they can do it in 30. Where does that fall on the calendar? Does that work for you? What's our situation? So, let's say we need a little bit extra time, so we're going to put December 1st for our closing date. Great. And so it's not uncommon for buyers in the market to ask for some closing cost assistance. We need to ask for some closing cost assistance in order to make this work. Oh, well, yeah, I do. So I need to ask for $5,000. Okay, so $5,000. Do you guys know how much you can ask for depending on the loan type? Did you guys get that in class or? Okay, so because it's different for every type of loan. So FHA, they could ask for up to 6%. So now, on a $200,000 house, they probably don't need that full 6%, but they can ask for that much. Of course, you don't want to leave money on the table, so you don't ever want to ask for more than what you actually need. So sometimes you have to pull the lender back into that conversation. So they really need, how much are they close to? And most of the time, they don't, unless they got that conversation with them. So FHA, they can ask for up to 6%. Conventional, they can only ask for 3%. VA, 4%. And so you want to do your calculations and make sure, we're doing a conventional loan, and we're asking for 5% closing costs. That math doesn't work. We're going to leave money on the table. And you'd be amazed at the number. I have to call a buyer's agent when I get an offer and go, you know, this is conventional or this is VA, and you're asking for X number of dollars. Is the lender going to allow you to ask for that much? And usually they'll go, oh, you know, and I'll get a call back in about 30 minutes, and they'll go, yeah, they can only ask for X.
So now the closing cost assistance is paid for. That's asking the seller to cover those expenses.
Yes, exactly. And so here's when we have to look at it, though. That comes out of your offer price. So don't let them think in their mind, I'm offering $195 for that house, because you're really not. Because you're asking for $5,000 in closing cost assistance. You're really offering $190, right?
Oh, okay.
Because the seller is going to be focused on their net. What are they walking away with? So every little thing you asked for, they're going to subtract from that offer price. And that's something a lot of buyers forget about. They go, well, let's offer $180. Oh, and then let's ask for 6% closing costs. You have to subtract that. So you have to mentally do that math and realize that the seller is not looking at your offer as an offer of $195. They're looking at your offer as $190 because you're asking for 5,000 closing costs. Good question. Contingent. So you guys have a house that's on the market. Let me make sure. Do you need to sell that house in order to buy this? And so you want to make sure you have that conversation, even if they're under contract. We need to make this contingent upon the closing on that house. If that closing falls through on your sale, with this purchase, or we right, did we?
I'm good. Nope.
Okay. All right. The camera's so you want to have that conversation and make sure that you indicate whether it's going to be contingent or not. In this case, you guys are in an apartment, so it's not contingent. So I've got a little checkbox I mark, no, it's not contingent.
One question there.
Yes.
Contingency is going to be based on, usually they'll get that information from the lender, right? The lender is the one who's going to be saying, you have to sell your home before I'll give you this other loan.
Right, exactly. So, but sometimes a seller will have the ability to buy without selling.
Right.
So they, in some instances, they don't have to do that. So if this is their dream house and they're worried about losing it, and they feel like they can financially cover both houses until that other house sells, they may want to go ahead and not make it contingent. That way they don't lose that house, especially if they're in a multiple offer situation, because that contingency is another obstacle. So you write a clean offer versus one that's, even if they're under contract on the sale of their house, that's still another hurdle that has to be cleared. If something goes south on their sale, then that interferes with this sale. And so it's another factor that a seller is going to take into account as they evaluate their offer. So if there's another house involved in the transaction, you want to make sure you have that conversation so that you know whether to indicate it's contingent or not. So you probably had the home warranty conversation, and so at that point you want to ask them, are you guys thinking you want to ask for a home warranty? Yes, no, yeah, we're going to ask for a home warranty. Or is the seller already offering one? In some cases, they're already offering it, so we don't have to ask for it. But we want to indicate on the contract that that we want to accept that if it's in there. And then we have a line for additional items or considerations. Are we asking for the refrigerator? Are we asking for the swing set? Is there a duck pond or a bird bath in the front yard that we're absolutely in love with? And that's the only reason we want to buy this house. It's because it's got a crazy bird bath that we're just absolutely in love with. We want to make sure that we get that bird bath. You'd be amazed. I had pianos and pool tables in contracts and stuff before. So you want to have a conversation. They expect to stay with that house that would not normally transfer. You want to put that in there. And so at that point, you've got your cheat sheet, and you've got all your items that are going to go into the contract, or at least most of them, so that you don't miss the high points. And then the bottom half of my cheat sheet serves as a negotiation sheet. So I've got those lines and spaces where if the seller counters, I can write that down. And that way I can turn around and present. And then, if we go back and forth several times, I've got it all in writing. That way, if there's ever a question of what was talked about, what was negotiated, right there. It's not a binding, but it helps keep things straight as we go through the process. So now we're ready to actually put the numbers on the contract. We've had the conversation with them. Probably when you did the buyer orientation, you did the buyer broker agreement, so you got that done. Okay, I got to get out of my 10. So the beginning of the contract. So we've got our cheat sheet in front of us to help us, and we're just going to go through it. Okay. The contract says the lending type that they're using. So because that's a settlement that's going to get attached. So we're going to mark it FHA. This is an FHA loan. We'll do that. Seller, we can leave it blank. We can put seller of record. If we know who the seller's name is, we can plug it in. A lot of people will just leave it blank. That way we don't have to go back and fix something later. So, and then buyer, you want to put the buyer in there exactly like we talked about. So Bob and Mary Smith, a married couple. So you've already probably plugged in before you sit down with them what county is the property in, what's the legal description of the property. Double check it. Don't just pull it off of the MLS sheet. If you look on the MLS sheet, you'll see the legal description in there. Don't trust that that's right. Pull out the tax record and double check it on the tax record to make sure that you've got the right one. So if an agent made a typo in the process of putting in that legal description, when they didn't put the complete legal description and you put it wrong, and they double check you as you're negotiating the contract, because they never will, and it gets to the title company and it's wrong, then they're going to have to go back and fix it at some point. It could cause a delay in the whole process. So you want to make sure that that legal description is correct. So you get the legal description, then you plug in the physical address of the property, in this case, 2304 South Florence Place, Tulsa, 74114. Next spot is purchase price and earnest money in the contract. And so we had that conversation. We're offering $195, and we're putting down $1,000 in earnest money. And I'm just looking through it as I'm going through it with them. So where does the earnest money go? So that's the next blank line. So that next blank line is, where do you want it to go? A lot of times, if you leave it blank, if you need some trust account, it's like setting your trust account. Sellers agents don't have a trust account, and so they want it to go to the title company. And so sometimes even in the broker remarks, they'll say earnest money to go to XYZ title. So you can ask the agent that question, or you can just put whatever you want it. Yeah, so good question. So on the MLS sheet, down at the very, very bottom, it says broker remarks, and that's the part that only an agent can see. So for this house, it says, call, text owner for an appointment or schedule with CCS, wait for seller's approval to show, owner's a licensed agent, see MLS docs for list of improvements, call accent with questions, email offers to info@accentfilters.com. And so it can say anything on there. I've seen it say crazy stuff. I've seen it say, things like, house probably has structural issues. So if there's something there, anything the broker remarks. So you always want to make sure you look at it. We've looked at it before, so yeah. So but sometimes it'll give you that additional information of where that earnest money needs to go. In this case, I want to go to accident realtors because this is an accident listing. So accident realtors. Item 3 on the contract is closing, funding, and position. So closing, we've already had the discussion. We want to close on December 1st. And then it says for not later than blank days, which says 5 days if left blank, thereafter caused by a delay of the closing process or such later date as may be necessary in the title evidence paragraph of the contract possession of the property will convey on. So typically that means if for whatever reason there's a delay in the closing process, the contract automatically plugs in an extra 5 days. So if you don't close on the 1st, the contract is still valid until the 5th. After the 5th, you're out of contract. So there's really no reason to ever change that. So is it void or voidable? Contract becomes void. So, yeah, unless you do an extension, contract is no longer in effect. So, and that's all stuff Susan will deal with, not stuff you guys will have to deal with. So for contract purpose, you want to leave that blank. Possession always transfers at closing unless you have stated differently in the next line. And so if for some reason you're negotiating early occupancy right up front, or vice versa, it never happens, but let's say you know that this seller needs an extra week to get out of the house, and as a buyer, you're talking that extra week to get out of the house after closing, even 4 days after. You could. So you get into the weeds with some of that kind of stuff. But typically you're going to leave that line blank unless you're trying to negotiate something different than the transfer of the home to happen at the closing. So but normally you go to the closing table, you bring your money, they bring keys, they get the money, you get the keys, the house is now yours. Next page of the contract, line item 4. Gotta go fast. All right. Accessories, equipment, and systems. So it lists a bunch of things that typically stay with the home. So those are all going to be physically attached items. Ceiling fans, bathroom mirrors, any other mirrors that are attached, central vacuum, floor covering, property, built-in under cabinet counter appliances, so like a stove, freestanding slide-in or drop-in kitchen stove, built-in sound system, lighting, blinds, window coverings, fireplace.
This is where buyers said they want these things, or the seller
These
says,
are all things that stay with the house. They convey automatically unless you change them, and that is line item 4A. 4A would be inclusions. That's where you would put in refrigerator, whatever. If you're asking for more than probably the refrigerator, I would suggest putting it on supplement. So let's say you're asking for the pool table, the dining table, and the bird bath. What you don't want is the lender to necessarily see some of that stuff. So if you stuff right in there, the appraiser's got to factor in the value of those into his appraisal. And so anything that is right there in the contract. So what some people might do is put all that kind of stuff on either a supplement, do not forward that onto the lender contract. So I would never tell anybody to do that, but since might possibly consider doing that. So the next line is exclusions. So let's say they've got a whole stack of old used tires stacked up in the backyard, and you do not want to deal with all those old tires. So exclusions are where you could put in there tires in the backyard to be removed. It could be anything. So anything you don't want. The swing set. I've got a contract right now where they don't want the swing set. There's an old ratty swing set. They want that swing set to be removed. Or anything that the buyer's exempted. So sometimes in that broker remarks, it'll be the bedroom exempt. And so when I'm telling you that those ones go by contract under line item 4 would typically say, so you want to go ahead and exempt those if there's notices later that the seller will be keeping that and the buyers are aware. So you put it in the contract as an exclusion. The curtains in the second bedroom do not stay. Okay. So line item 5. Time period specified in the contract. This is your time reference date. So that is the day that the clock starts ticking for things like your inspections. And so by leaving it blank, the time reference date says that it is the day, or I'm sorry, the day after the time reference date shall be counted as day one. If left blank, the time reference date shall be the third day after the last day of signatures of all parties. So if everybody signs it on the 1st, the time reference date becomes the 4th. And so a lot of agents will put a date in there. I recommend leaving it blank. If it takes you a week to negotiate and you put tomorrow as the time reference date, regardless of the fact that it took you a week to negotiate the contract, the time reference date will start on that day unless you renegotiate that date. And so by leaving it blank, if it takes you a week, 5 days, 7 days, 25 days to negotiate the contract, that time reference date will not start until 3 days after signatures. Plus, it builds in some extra days for your inspection. So line item 6, residential property condition disclosure. You've got the disclosures. You've probably already reviewed it with a buyer. If you haven't, now would be a decent time to pull them out and go through those disclosures. You have to see those disclosures. There will be a form later where they'll sign that they've seen the disclosures. The next line item is your inspection period. So line item 7, investigations, inspections, and reviews. If left blank, it automatically becomes 10 days. I recommend putting 15 days. So even if you left it blank and it were 10 days, but you left your time reference date blank, then you would technically have 13 days. But by putting 12 or 13 days, 14, 15 days, you buy yourself more time. So number 1, it allows you more time to get inspections. So if it's the middle of the summer and inspectors are back up and they're busy, then you have a hard time scheduling those inspections. And so you need that extra time in order to get the inspectors out there. Let's say you have it, let's say the buyer decides not to initially do a structural inspection. So they just do an EMP, electrical, mechanical, plumbing. And during the course of that EMP inspection, the EMP guy sees something and says, hey, I know that you're not doing a structural inspection, but I see some things here that make me nervous. I recommend that you have that structural inspection done. And so at that point, now let's say you're 8 days in, you have to pick up the phone, call that structural inspector and try and schedule a structural inspection on really short notice. And so by having extra days, you've got that time. Yeah.
As buyer specialists, do we schedule those inspections or does Susie or Susan?
So you do. The buyer may want to do it themselves, but most of the time they don't know any inspectors, and so they're going to defer to you. And so at some point you're probably going to have the conversation of, hey, the next step is we might get inspections. And so do you know an inspector? Are you related to an inspector? Is there anybody that you've used in the past that you really want to use? Because I've got an inspector that I use all the time and I love him. And that opens that conversation for them to say, oh yeah, my Uncle Bob is an inspector, I want to use Bob. 9 times out of 10 they're going to say, no, I don't have a clue. Yeah, whoever you like. And then you go through that process of talking about, I recommend you having all these inspections.
And Accent we have inspectors that we use on a regular basis?
In the past, we kind of had a relationship with one. I think now some agents use different people, but I do think there's 1 or 2 that Susan prefers. And
so it can be good to like do some research and find out what their fees are, and kind of dig to try and find the best fits.
And Susan can kind of help guide you. There's some people that she really likes, the way the reports are done, the way they present things. I'll give you an example. We'll get really tight on time. We're not going to get very far. Yeah. So an example on inspections, we used to use a company called Knox. So the guys who did the inspections have been in business for 100 years. They were really sharp, but they were old and kind of crusty. And so I had an inspection done on a really old house, and it didn't have GFCIs in the bathroom. GFCI is just those trip ones that have the little button. It's an easy fix. It cost maybe $30 to swap out the old ones with GFCIs. I had first-time home buyers that were young and a little bit nervous, and these guys went into this process of telling me how they died because of the GFCI. I mean, God my witness, they said, you could die in this bathroom.
God.
Scared the bejesus out of them, and they bailed out of the contract. So there are some inspectors you just don't want to use. There's one guy in town who's very, very thorough, and he does the reports right there while you wait. The problem is it means that his inspection takes 3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
It is insane. No. You're stuck here at this house for at least 3 hours. And so, so you want to put in, you want to at least leave it blank and get yourself 10 days. I recommend putting in 12 to 15. And the reason is the inspection period is their biggest out. They're going to get cold feet and bail out of this house. That inspection period is the biggest window for them to do so. They can back off for any reason they want. We don't necessarily want to tell them that. But basically, they can come back and say, I don't like the slope of the driveway after the inspection because they said it's going to run back into my garage. I don't like the fact that there's GFCIs in the bathroom, and I'm not willing to buy that. So regardless of the fact that you might be willing to put in GFCIs, that scares me. I don't want to buy the house. You can back out for basically any reason during that inspection period. And they have anybody who want to inspect the property. So treatment, repairs, and replacements, that's the next thing. So they've done their inspections, and you want to walk them through it. The next thing in the contract is treatment. So we had inspections. We'll get the report back from the inspector. So it's where you start seeing Susan. She's my contractor. She's phenomenal. She works with you every single day. What she'll do is she will help you through through that inspection report and figure out if there is anything in there that gives you concern. And remember, what we're looking for from inspections is big things. We're not worried about the little tic-tac stuff, things that are easy to fix. We're worried about the big things. We have any structural issues, we have termites, falling off, anything like that is what we're worried about. But if we do find anything, we have the ability to send them what's called R, and we can negotiate any potential repairs. And if they're not willing to fix something that is of major importance to you, say we find a structural issue that you want repaired and they're not willing to do that, then we have the option to get out of this contract. So you're sharing with them, hey, don't stress. We've got some options if we find something. And ask the seller to make those repairs if something comes up in those discussions. The next section talks about expiration of the buyer's right to cancel the contract, and it talks about their options and how to get out of the contract. And this is an important part that I always stop and I read it line for line with the buyer, because that is their out. It basically tells them that if their lending falls through or anything happens during inspections, they can get out of the contract. You want to read them so they know. And then an inspection of treatment repairs and a final walkthrough. So you want to let them know that once they make repairs, if there are any that we have to deal with, we do have the ability to have it re-inspected, or just do a final walkthrough. And I always tell stories, say, you know what, and I always recommend doing a final walkthrough. We typically do it the day before closing, and I'll tell you why we do it. When I bought my first house, I was really busy, and we didn't have time to do a final walkthrough. So we went to the closing table, we closed, and we go back to the house to start moving in, and we open the front door and discover there's a hole about the size of my fist right by the front door in the drywall. That was not there before. When the guy was moving his bed frame out, he shoved the wheel of the bed frame through the wall and didn't bother to fix it. It wasn't a big deal, no. It was an easy fix, and I was going to repaint the entire house on the inside anyway, but it did not make my wife a happy camper. And so I always recommend doing a final walkthrough, because if we find something like that, we can say, whoa, wait a minute, we need this to be fixed before we get to plug it. And then the next section talks about acceptance of the property. So line item 9, you want to remind them that once we close, the house becomes yours. And so you are accepting the property in its current condition at the time of closing. And so it's another good reason why we want to do that re-inspect or that final walkthrough to make sure that everything's good and that nothing's happened to the house since we put it on. So title evidence, we have a couple of different ways to take title. Because you're using lending, our lender is going to require us to use number 1, which is commitment of issuance of the title insurance policy. It just protects you and the lender should anything come up with the title after you work on the property. They're going to review the title, and the title company make sure it's clear, but every once in a while things get missed. Very, very rarely, but if something were to come back later, at least you would have that coverage, and of course the lender would have that coverage as well. So the lender requires you to have that. So you mark box A. And then the next section we want to talk about is land and boundary survey. So seller is going to be required to present to you at the time of closing what's called a mortgage inspection certificate. That is that map that you get that shows where the easements are, where the property lines are. It's the same as a pin and stake. Is it exact? It is not. So it gives you a rough estimate of where things are. And so you don't want to dig in the backyard using that map. You want to call Okie. If you're going to build onto the house, then you maybe want to have a pin and stake survey done so you know exactly where your property lines are. Those are expensive. Unless you're planning on doing that, we'll just have the seller at their expense give us that mortgage inspection certificate. If you want a land and boundary survey, that's at your expense. And so nobody's ever going to, I've never had a buyer that wanted a land and boundary survey. And I got to leave in 5 minutes. So taxes, assessments, and prorations. The way taxes work in Oklahoma are you are responsible for the taxes from the day of closing forward as a buyer. The buyers are the sellers responsible for the taxes from the beginning of the year until the day of closing. So because you're using lending, what will happen is you will actually get credit for the seller's portion of the taxes at the time of closing. And so that money will go into your escrow, and then as you pay your mortgage payment a month, your escrow is money going in order to take care of things like your insurance and your taxes. So it's not something you don't have to worry about your mortgage. Whoever holds your mortgage will take care of paying those taxes for you. Just kind of be aware. If they're a cash buyer, you want to make sure that they do understand, hey, you will get the bill at the end of the year for the full year's taxes because you will get credit from the sellers for their portion of the tax at the beginning of the year. Because sometimes we'll get that cash buyer that gets that bill at the end of the year and goes, whoa, I didn't think I was going to have this big tax bill. I thought they pay taxes. Item 12, residential service agreement. We talked about home warranty before. We've already had the conversation with them. Our options are parties shall not be covered by a residential service agreement. The seller already has one in place and will transfer it. Or number 3, you're asking for a residential service agreement, which costs X number of dollars. You plug in a dollar amount there based on the one you want. Most of them run between $500 and $600. You get really fancy ones that get pretty expensive. All they've got a pool. You want to add in the pool, things like that. And then it says seller agrees to pay X number of dollars and buyer agrees to pay the balance. So you can actually split it. You can pick a $600 policy and ask them to pay for half your home warranty. Most of the time, you'll ask for the whole thing if you're going to ask for one. Or if a buyer says, I want one, but I'll pay for it myself, you're going to put in $595, whatever the warranty costs, and the seller pays $0. Additional provisions. So it's about 4 or 5 blank lines where you can just write stuff in. I recommend, even though in your supplement there's going to be a place to ask for closing costs, if you're asking for closing costs, put it there as well. So it never put it twice. Sometimes they will miss it in the supplement. So you want to make sure that nobody misses it during negotiations. I recommend putting it right there. Buyer and seller agree that the seller will contribute $5,000 towards buyers, closing costs, prepaid escrows, and Susan can kind of guide you on the language of what you want to use. So something like that. So there's you can work in different ways, but Susan can kind of guide you exactly how to do it. Next section talks about mediation. There's a dispute within the contract. It states that all parties agree to go to mediation to resolve that dispute, and then, of course, if things aren't done there, then you can pursue legal remedies such as small claims. So, breach or failure to close. This is another part that you're going to read through specifically with the buyer. The first part is breach by the seller. So it basically states that if the buyer doesn't agree, they're obligated to do, but the seller breaches the contract, what are the consequences? And then item B is for the buyer, breach by the buyer, and you want to read through it and make sure that they fully understand what the ramifications are if they breach the contract and what breach actually constitutes and what penalties to be. So, and the next section talks about earnest money and how the earnest money is released and who gets the earnest money, and if the contract is breached, how does that earnest money get distributed, that whole process. So again, you want to read through that. You don't necessarily have to go through it line by line, but make sure they understand kind of how that works if they breach the contract. Delivering acceptance of offers and counter offers, it just states that the buyers give you authorization to receive counter offers and to present offers on their behalf. And then the section on non-foreign sellers is complicated. You want to read it, but for them, you basically just want to go through it as fast as you can. So don't get them in the weeds on stuff that really just talks about the tax ramifications and things like that. So, yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you. I can go for about 3 more minutes and I typed really fast. Okay, next part is where they sign. If you're done with that part, that is the actual contract itself. The next thing you're going to have is your supplement. And so there's a conventional loan supplement. There's an FHA loan supplement. There is a USDA, which is a rural development loan. Occasionally we'll use that.
That's if you're buying out in the
if
state.
you're buying out in the sticks a little bit, but there are parts of Owasso, Collinsville, Glenpool, Claremore that will be USDA, and it's a great loan product because it's zero money down. It's the only loan product that you can use other than VA that is zero money down. So if you've got a buyer that tries they're going to be only your USDA loan. But if they're a first-time home buyer, making a decent salary but nothing extravagant, and they don't have any cash in their pocket, but really want to buy, USDA is a good product to kind of guide them where to go in the Tulsa area. And then, of course, there's a VA loan supplement. So depending on what type of loan you're going to go through, the conventional is very simple. It's one page. The first part talks about the loan amount, how much they have to qualify for. A lot of times, I will just put purchase. The reason is, as you negotiate, you have to change that. So it's another thing that you have to change when you go back to get signatures. By putting purchase price, you don't have to go back and change it and get initials or redo the form. You've already got it plugged in there, and it's going to fluctuate depending on what the final sale price is. So, and then number 2 talks about customer value, house has appraised at sale price, and what happens if it doesn't. And the next part talks about the cost. And then there's an additional section at the bottom where if you're asking for closing costs, you can add that again. Even though you put in an additional provision in the contract, you want to put it in the conventional loan supplement again. On the FHA supplement, the first part is exactly the same. You're going to plug in the loan amount. FHA amendatory clause, again, that is the what it has to appraise for. Again, I usually put purchase price there. And then on page 2, there is a section where it talks about the closing costs. And it says loan costs that FHA, first part says loan costs that FHA will not allow the buyer to pay in the amount not to exceed. There is a cost that FHA, and actually VA as well, puts on the seller that they do not allow the buyer to pay. It's usually $100. For VA, sometimes it's more. I think 300 is pretty typical for VA, but it's going to be different for every lender. But for FHA, it's almost always $100. Some lenders it's 0, but most it's $100. So that is not, even if you're asking for no closing cost, that's still required. Then some condition, seller agrees to pay on behalf of the buyer loan discount points and FHA closing costs, which include prepaid escrows, origination fees, and other FHA allowables not to exceed. That's where we're going to start $5,000. Even though we put it before, we're going to put it in there. And then it talks about the FHA appraisal requirements again. And then there's another additional provisions section. I'll even have some agents put it again, buyer and seller to agree that seller will pay, even though it's 2 lines right above it. It's not necessary to put it there. If you want to, you just want to hammer that over and over and over again to make sure that there are 2 places to sign on this one, and a lot of people miss it. There is here where you're agreeing to these terms, and there is the very bottom where you're certifying, and the agent signs it, that they're certifying that they haven't done anything out of contract that is against the law. Basically, all parties are saying that they haven't committed real estate fraud. Okay, so we've gone through our supplements. If you haven't already gone through disclosures, you want to make sure you go through disclosures with them. They have to initial page 1 and page 2 at the bottom. There's boxes for them to do that. Page 3, they sign it at the bottom. If there is a lead-based paint disclosure, if it's an older house, there's a lead-based paint disclosure. They will check the box depending on whether they want to have a lead-based paint inspection or not. Most people will not. And then they sign it and you sign it. Square footage acknowledgement. Some agents will include that, some won't. So you want to make sure that you do have the square footage acknowledgement. It says that the house is the square footage that's stated to the best of the seller's knowledge. It also says buyer beware. If you're concerned about the square footage, get out a tape measure and measure yourself. That's what it says, but that's what it means. So it will get measured during the appraisal, but you do have the ability to have that square footage measured because it's important. This document came out of a lawsuit. There was a real estate team, a son and mother, that were in Oklahoma City that were overinflating the square footages of all of this. The time becomes bigger and the price per square foot lower, and they got caught. And the lawsuit was in this form that we all get to fill out now. And so that's pretty much it. That's a quick overview of the contract. So questions at this point? It is super, super simple, but read it. There is a contract pamphlet form. Get one of those contract pamphlet forms. I think we got them back in the conference room.
The GTAR one?
Yep.
They're back in the supplier area.
Yeah. So get one of those, read it, and go through the contract with that and read it. 9 times out of 10, buyers will not get into the weeds. You tell them this is a standard Oklahoma real estate contract. It's a plug-and-play contract. There's only a handful of boxes with a change. We talked about almost every single one of them right here as we kind of went through our checklist.
And the bottom part is just keep track of the address.
Exactly. That's just my cheat sheet. But the main thing is you want to know the contract backwards and forwards, because every once in a while you're going to get that stickler that's going to say, what does this mean? And you don't want to go, exactly. So even if you don't know it, you don't have to go word for word, but if you can give them the gist of what that means, it's going to give them some comfort. So you don't have to know the whole contract and every supplement word for word, but read it and go through it line by line and make sure you at least can roughly explain what each part of it means. But the main thing is get the items on that checklist. What are we going to offer? What's the earnest money? When's the closing date? How much closing costs are we asking for? If we're asking for closing costs, do we want a warranty? It gives you the tools that you need to plug in as you go through the contract with them. And do it. Even if you don't keep a contract with you, which I would recommend that you do, keep one in your car, because every once in a while you're going to get somebody who goes, let's write it now. At least have a sheet with you, so that if they have a pretty good idea of what they want to do as you're sitting there in the house, you can start plugging that stuff in. Or if you're talking to them on the phone, plug that stuff in. Then you can have everything already plugged into the contract when they meet you back at the office. A lot of times, if I know what they're wanting to do, and I've got everything on my worksheet plugged in already, I'll say, okay, next step is to put this on the contract. Why don't you guys go grab a quick dinner, something to eat, meet me back at my office in 30, 40 minutes. I'm going to go back and get a contract put together, get all of this plugged in so that we're ready to go when we sit down together. And that way when we sit down, it's all there, it's ready to go. We can go through it quick, fast, and hurry, get signatures, and get an offer.
Do you fax over, or how do you send this
So I get fax from where I live, because I live in 2018. So
Wow.
email it. So you're messing back.
Oh man.
Scan this in.
Yeah, okay, you're going to scan and email it. Yeah.
Dinosaur.
So exactly. So yeah, no, you were asking for that one. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. So you're going to scan it. The copier will scan it. If you don't know how to do that, have Grace will teach you. Scan it, email it to the other agent. What I would do is even before you write it, if you have not had a conversation with that agent, pick up the phone, call them, make sure the house is still available, and that they don't have any current offers on the property. Most agents will not tell you if you don't specifically ask. If you call me and say, "Is that house still available?" I will say yes. I may have 3 offers sitting on my desk. I'm not going to tell you that I've got those 3 offers until you email me your offer, and then I'll pick up the phone and go, hey, I've got 3 other offers on this house, by the way. Because I don't want to scare you off. I want you to go, oh, okay, and you don't write the offer, because I want that other offer. So you want to specifically ask, do you have any other offers on the property? And that way you know, and then give them a heads up, okay, great, I'm headed back to the office right now to meet with buyers, and I think we're going to be sending you an offer this afternoon. And then as soon as you send that offer, pick up the phone and call them again and say, hey, this is Bob. I just sent you an offer. I want to make sure you got it. Let me know if you have any questions. I have seen agents send it through the wrong email, and then another offer come in, and they wait 3 days, and they call and go, hey, I haven't heard anything about my offer. Like, what offer? We never got your offer. We're starting to negotiate it now. And that would be an awfully awkward conversation to have with your buyers of why they didn't get that house. Probably be making up a big story. So, all right. So I got to get out of here. When I get back, I'll answer any questions that you guys have got. And then, when are you back in town?
We'll be back Sunday evening.
Cool. If you got questions, ask me Monday, and we'll go through it.
Sounds good. So much.